First Nations have been leading modern marine planning processes in our territories for more than a decade. Our vision of a healthy ocean future includes vibrant communities, sustainable economies, and thriving ecosystems. We've made significant progress on marine planning with the provincial government. Through the Marine Plan Partnership for the North Pacific Coast, First Nations in BC have signed marine use plans and agreements, agreed to monitoring of ecosystem-based management practices, put in place a structure to assess environmental impacts, agreed to economic development strategies, and identified areas to set aside for protection. In 2017, we endorsed the PENSEMA Agreement with Canada and British Columbia to carry out strategic marine planning and management of our waters. With PENSEMA came a commitment from Canada for a shared approach to oceans management. Now, First Nations have come together to develop a marine planning reconciliation table to put First Nations at the table with Canada on a nation-to-nation basis. A marine planning reconciliation table will establish a joint decision-making process with First Nations and Canada to manage our waters and to identify areas where First Nations will have more authority over ocean planning, management, and enforcement. How would a marine planning table work? A marine planning table would be represented by all nations. Engage First Nations at a government-to-government level with senior federal officials. Send all major decisions back to the communities for approval. And give First Nations joint final decision-making with Canada. What will a marine planning table help us do over time? A marine planning table will advance marine planning in our territories by deciding if and where development can take place, helping prevent and manage impacts to marine ecosystems and community cultural values, identifying areas for habitat restoration, and monitoring ocean health through new science and research. A marine planning table will support ocean health by protecting important cultural and environmental values, establishing a network of marine protected areas, and protecting fisheries areas for food, social, and ceremonial use. This reconciliation table will bring First Nations and Canada together to find ways to reach these goals. All final decisions from the table would be made jointly by First Nations communities and the federal government. This process will not make decisions for individual nations, but it will raise the bar on what nations can hope to achieve when negotiating their own agreements with government. So what's the next step? To move forward, CFN will seek the approval of First Nations organizations to develop a marine planning reconciliation table. If approved, CFN will work together with First Nations organizations to develop the governance process and keep communities informed of our progress. CFN will seek ratification of the marine planning table by First Nations organizations. Negotiations will be carried out with Canada and go back to communities for approval. By working together, we're proving that we can make positive change.